Hi, I'm Brett Parker, multimedia specialist for snack food and wholesale bakery. And today we're focusing on Wilton, who are commemorating America's 250th birthday this 4th of July with a patriotic collection of baking goods and supplies that celebrate the different American eras the brand got to be a part of. Here to discuss this is Shanta McGahey, Director of Brand and Community at Wilton. Shanta, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Brett.
Why did Wilton decide to create a patriotic baking collection tied to America's 250th anniversary?
Well, the 250th anniversary of America, it's a once in a generation milestone, right? But we think it's really the perfect time to celebrate what baking means to American families. Baking has always been a part of American gatherings, right? And from holiday cookouts, you have neighborhood block parties. It's really a part of the fabric of what it means to be American. And Wilton has been a part of those moments since 1929. And so we wanted to celebrate that through the generations in baking campaign, because it's really about us honoring those homemade traditions that have been passed down through the generations and families for over the decades. All of those recipes that have been passed down. And for us, it's really important to be a part of those moments and those celebrations. And we want to help bakers of all skill levels create something meaningful to celebrate those moments this summer. So that could be anything from, recreating your grandmother's recipe to starting a new tradition with your own children.
I was wondering if you could give me an example or two of specifically how a recipe in this collection reflects a different era of American baking.
Sure. So we actually put together a great little digital book that are meant to highlight some of the different decades. And you can actually find that digital book on wilton.com. But I think, we really love the fact that you can go beyond, a flag cake, for example, this time of year. So one of the recipes we're featuring is an American flag berry cobbler, which really kind of taps into the nostalgia that people are feeling right now. Um, so it's made with fresh berries that are arranged into a flag design, and pastry. Then we've got a Fourth of July cookie cake that's a large, shareable cookie decorated with red, white, and blue frosting. Um, there's, from the 1970s, there's a cake that's featured with, buttercream flowers all around it, and then taper candles coming out of the top of it, which is not something you really see today. But could be something fun to recreate if you wanted to recreate something from the 1970s. And then we also see, some of the sort of character type cakes from the 1980s. So there's really something for everyone. If you want to kind of go back to that nostalgia and recreate something.
Are there any vintage Wilton products or decorating techniques that have remained popular over the decades? And why do you think they specifically still resonate for bakers?
Yeah, so there's actually several Wilton products that really still resonate for bakers. Some of the ones that are still, that are still top sellers today are, of course, our decorating bags and tips. So the 1M tip is possibly the most famous piping tip in the world, and that is a Wilton tip that was invented around 1980. It's a star tip, and it is still widely used today by bakers, both professional and amateur. And then, of course, all of our tips, and then the bags that go with it, that in all the various sizes are very popular. We also, our candy melts continue to be popular throughout the decades. and have seen a resurgence recently, which we think, there's an interest in no bake or simpler treats. And then, we see still the nostalgia of those old Wilton pans that were, various shapes, whether that was Barbie or, a puppy dog, or, all of the molded cakes that were so popular in the 1980s for children's birthday parties. We still see a lot of interest there.
So we've been talking about the past a lot, but I want to talk for a minute about consumers this year going into this summer. Are there any
Mhm.
baking trends that you find are very strong amongst consumer data this year? And do you find that trends that you find this year tap into any trends from the past at all?
Well, it's funny. The biggest trend, of course, I think that we're all seeing right now is the dot cake, right? Everybody's talking about the dot cake. And so in case anyone is not familiar with this, and you're not on Instagram and TikTok, the dot cake is cake layers that are packed inside small cups covered with icing, and then you flip them, and dip them into a generous layer of nonpareil sprinkles. Um, so that's, it's a really fun and individual treat that I think taps into the broader shift towards these individual treats as opposed to, larger cakes of the past. But at the same time, those non-pearl sprinkles, um, they do, kind of harken back to an older time. Those are the tiny little balls, which haven't been used as much in recent times. People have kind of gravitated more towards using, various types of, jimmies or different shaped sprinkles. You see a lot of metallic sprinkles out there right now. So I do think it's interesting that you've got people going back to, the little tiny, round balls, that were so popular, in the 80s and 90s, and coming back to that now.
So, for families looking to celebrate the 4th of July beyond the traditional flag cake, what are some of the most creative or unexpected recipes in this specific collection?
Well, some of the recipes that we have, that we're introducing this year, we are sharing a red, white, and blue red velvet cake, um, where we think, red velvet cake seems to be something that is, uh, a recipe that's passed down through generations. It really is truly American. So that's one, that we wanted to feature. And then we also wanted to feature, things like the red, white, and blue popcorn that is no bake and is made with the candy melts. That's something easy because ultimately what it comes back to is about, celebrating the moment together. And I think, we're also celebrating through different types of cakes and that represent, different heritages. Um, and so you can see all of those recipes on wilton.com. Um, but I think ultimately for us, it's about people, picking up the pan and the ingredients and, celebrating baking and bringing others into the joy that is baking.
Fantastic. It all sounds very delicious. But that's all the time that we have for today. Shanta McGahey of Wilton, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Brett.
And thank you all for watching.